at Synapse. We're a recruiting agency based in the US. And our guest today is Franco Ruggeri, COO and co-founder of Orka, our performance agency. Franco, do you want to say a few words?
Hey, everybody. Like Ines mentioned, I'm co-founder and COO of Orka. We are a performance agency. We specialize on performance ads in search and social networks. We've been working for a while in digital marketing, so hopefully we can give you guys some insights and some tips to build your own marketing strategy.
Awesome. Already a preview there. So why did we do this webinar in the first place? Is we were talking a lot about what were the main challenges that startups were facing today. We both work at different startups and have built products from 0 to 1 and from 1 to 10 several times. And growth is hard. It is a pain for companies. Usually companies start too late. Marketing is an afterthought. When they run out of family, friends, and referrals, they say, okay, it's time to start our marketing strategy. And unfortunately, that's a little bit too late, but because you always wish that you have started sooner, but today is better than never. So here we are. And we wanted to help you choose the best strategy according to your business, because the worst thing that you can do is to try everything at once at the same time. The fact that you can do everything doesn't mean that you should. There are specialized people for everything. And sometimes a lot of channels today are not bringing a lot of value. We have email marketing, social media, and even in social media, it is completely different to do LinkedIn than Instagram, and even Instagram for TikTok, and personal LinkedIn or corporate LinkedIn. There are so many channels. The landscape has gotten so much more intricate from a years back to today. So we wanted to give you a couple of pointers to help you navigate this. When we were discussing about this webinar, Franco told me, like, this is too obvious that people need this, but I cannot stress enough how many times people have approached me to start a digital marketing strategy without having these 3 things very well defined, that are the value proposition, the high resolution logos, and the deck template. It may seem very, I don't know, basic for some people, but you cannot approach any marketing strategy appropriately if you do not have clear what your value proposition is. Your value proposition is the reason why your clients are purchasing from you. Some people talk about it like about your value proposition as if it was a differentiator or something that sets you apart from your competitors. And those are very nice definitions, but it is very hard sometimes to know what sets you apart from your competitors, because it might be nothing, or it might be something that is hard to spot or to realize what it is. The best way for me to know if you're already a successful business, what your value proposition is to go and talk to your clients and ask them, what is it that made you purchase from me? And sometimes the answer may not be the one that they say right away. They may say, no, you were nice. And it's like, okay, but there's something more. And then they might end up sleeping and confessing, maybe I tried a couple of different agencies, or I tried a couple of different companies, and they weren't replying fast enough, or they didn't care about my business. I really liked something that you said, that it was this or that. So it is something that you have to do a little bit of detective work. Why is it that your customers are buying from you? This is if your company is already up and running. If you do not have any paying customers yet, unfortunately, you will have to go blind, and you will have to find something that sets you apart from your competitors, or you will have to find something that your clients or your potential clients are complaining about your competitors, and you can make that your competitive advantage. So very important before we move forward with any strategy to have these 3 things: value proposition, high resolution logos to make really crisp and good content, and a deck template. I consider myself a PowerPoint nerd. I love PowerPoint. I do presentations for everything. I think it makes people grasp concepts really easily, and it is the way that I digest content. Some people may not agree with this, but I think that presentations are everything. It is very good to send to clients. You can do brochures with it. You can even do social media content if you are just starting and you want to try different things. It allows you to be really independent and to create content really easily. So now that we got that out of the way, what are the first challenges you have when building a team? So you're a founder, or a CEO, you have been doing this for a little while and you want to start doing some marketing. So you say, I'm going to bring this rock star of a person, and this person is going to solve all of my problems. But then you forget to listen to that person, or you don't agree with the approach that this person brings to your company. This may be because you don't have the value proposition that we saw in the last slide as clear as you may think. It is very hard to navigate a marketing strategy without a very clear value proposition. So I suggest you get that first out of the way. And once you have your value proposition, or if you don't, that's okay. But then you have to know that it is something that you have to discover together along with the marketing person that you're bringing along. Assess what it is that you know, what you need. Do you need someone to execute your vision? Or do you need someone to think with you what's going to be the best path forward? Once you have that, you can decide if you want to go with an agency, or if you want to go with a person in-house, or if you want to do a mixture of both. Do not expect immediate results. Marketing is like going out with a person. You cannot expect them to marry them in the first day. You cannot go to someone and tell them, okay, nice to meet you, let's get married. That would be crazy. So what do we expect the same with our customers? We just met them and we're like, okay, when are you going to deposit this money? When are you going to buy my services? They need to get to know you first, and they need to realize what's the value that you're bringing to the table. And prioritize. The fact that you can do everything doesn't mean that you should. You have to choose what is that you're going to start with. So if you hire a person with a very horizontal profile that can execute a lot of different things, they have done paid media, they have done content, they have done product marketing, they have done webinars, events, partnerships, they have experience in everything. So you think that in 3 months you're going to be able to have everything going. That is unfortunately unrealistic. If you've ever met someone that was able to do that, please introduce them to me. That would be great to know them, but it is unfortunately very unrealistic. It is possible to do everything, but you have to be realistic about the sprints and the time that is going to take to get there. So first you need to prioritize and choose what are the first strategies that you're going to do. So for example, I'm going to focus on LinkedIn and some paid ads. And in the future, we may add a newsletter and a blog. And then later we're going to, so you can build, once you already have the handbook and you already have a really easygoing way with a strategy, then you can start doing another part of the strategy or implementing new channels. And trust the team, finally. This is the hardest one, especially if you're going to do brand, because when it comes to performance, the KPIs are there, the numbers are there, you can see everything. But when it comes to marketing, it is very hard it's very hard to measure immediate results. It's like going to the gym. You have to go every day in order to see results. You may have a great workout one day, but then you have to come back the next day and you have to continue with those reps. It is not going to reap results on the first day. So it requires a lot of trust, and it requires a lot of magical thinking, a little bit, to find the person that you're really going to trust and to have them do what they're going to do. Whoops. So what is a brand? We all know, I'm sure, but I really like this definition, that is, it is the gut feeling that you have when you learn about something. When you see something, it is like that first impression that you have about that thing. And when it comes to personal brand, it is the way in which individuals market themselves and establish a distinct presence and reputation in their respective fields or industries. We're going to go back to all of this, but first, more than giving a class, I wanted to show you by example, what is it that I did? I first studied at CNAP, that is a recruiting agency based in the US and Canada. What is it that I did in my first 6 months, and what we can learn from that? Because then we can have in 15 minutes all the knowledge that it took me 6 months to gather. This is what the company used to look like. We've been a very profitable and successful company for over 9 years. This year will be 10. And this is what we used to look like. So for 8 years approximately, we had this red logo that is very cute, but it does not represent what we stand for. And then we changed to this purple logo that is a little bit more modern, but it didn't really convey what we wanted to show. So I met with every single person in the company, and I sat back and I asked them questions, and I only listened. Everyone had a different opinion of what the company stood for and what the company was supposed to be. But there were two words that were constantly being repeated that were tech and human. And those two words seemed to be opposites to me at the time. But then I understood we're in the recruiting business. So the human aspect is very important, but we're also in a highly competitive business. So it is very important that we adopt the latest technologies. That is how, when we hired an agency. If you want the contact of this agency later, I can give it to you. You can DM me. And they created this beautiful brand book that I'm not going to expand on it, but you can see that already looks a lot more polished and it conveys everything that we wanted to convey really well. And we created this brand book in order to start our marketing strategy with our new brand identity and with something that could tie all of the team together and make us like all stand behind the same concept. So the company took a little part of the S of Synapse, and with this Synapse module, they created these different shapes, and these are going to be the core elements that are going to be repeated all across the brand. Of course, when you see our posts on social media, you're not going to know all of this, but it is very important that everything that you do has a purpose, because this gives an identity to your brand. It gives an identity to your team also, and that is going to be the North Star that is going to guide your entire marketing strategy. So what we did in the first 6 months, we learned what made our team love our company. And this has to do a lot with employer brand that I'm going to talk about later. I sat individually with every person in the team for over an hour, and we went over their personal brand. And I expressed how important it was for them to build their personal brand. We're going to go over that later also, and I'm going to give you a couple of tips about your personal brand also. We started an inbound strategy. We didn't have anything. I did some changes to the website. I didn't redo the website entirely. So baby steps first. And now that we're running ads, and Franco is going to talk about that later, we might redo the website entirely later. But first, go for the low-hanging fruit. That would be my advice, and that is where I started. A couple of small changes to the copy, a couple of small changes to the tone of the purple to align with our new brand book were enough to make us have a modern and clean looking website today. And we started running ads for $2,000 to $5,000 a month, slowly increasing the budget, testing the waters, seeing what could be improved. We didn't throw $5,000 at once and expected like 1,000 clients the next day. We started slow. We started testing what was the message that resonated with our clients the most. And then we started building on top of that. And something very important, we are a recruiting agency. So we have to appeal to B2B businesses that are the companies that are hiring us. And we also have this kind of B2C aspect because we also talk to clients or to candidates. So most of our communications were targeted toward candidates, because most of the team are recruiters. But when building this strategy, we realized that our clients, our paying customers, are the leaders of other companies, the managers, CEOs, owners of small and medium businesses in the US and Canada. So we have to start addressing them primarily, because they were the ones that were going to pay for our businesses. So they were the ones that had to fall in love with our brands first. Personal brands are like opinions. Everyone has one, even if you think that you don't. And your personal brand already exists. You just have to extract it. I like to think of a personal brand as a character that you build about yourself, that it is not you, it is separate from you, but it takes a lot from you. So it is like a character that you build that takes things from your personality, but that it isn't you. And it has a lot to do with the digital footprint that you leave on the internet about yourself. Even if you don't post on social media and you think that you don't have a personal brand, that is your personal brand. If you think that you don't have a profile picture and that makes you not have a personal brand, that is your personal brand. And it all goes to the things that you care about, and you're going to be speaking to the people that think the same way as you. So 5 very fast keys in order to build your personal brand. Know your audience, what I just told you about. If you're a recruiter, you're going to talk to candidates. If you're a salesperson, you're going to talk to your clients. If you are an employee, you're going to be talking to potential employers. You may have more than one audience. For example, most employees do, but your personal brand is the only asset that is going to be with you for your entire life. So today you might have a startup, tomorrow you might have another one. You might sell your startup, you might go bankrupt with your company, but your personal brand, that today is very likely LinkedIn, that is going to stay with you during all of your projects. That is going to go with you, whether you change jobs, whether you change your company, your logo may change, your company may change, your product may change, AI may take over the world, but still the digital footprint that you left about yourself, it is always going to be with you. So it is something that you have to take really good care of. It takes a lifetime to build a reputation, and it takes one post to destroy it. So be really careful about what you post, but put yourself out there. You're going to, I'm getting ahead a little bit of myself, but when you start posting on social media and you're not used to it, you're going to feel embarrassed. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to, I don't know, it has happened to me plenty of times. Like I pressed the post button and then I realized I should have said this other thing, or I should have added that. Maybe there's a typo, or I should have used this other word. That is great. It means that I'm already learning just by doing it. I hope that if you start building your personal brand today, what you're posting today gives you cringe in 6 months. Like, I hope you grow so much that what you're posting today gives you cringe in 6 months. That is the idea. That is what we want to do. So you have to develop a thick skin. You have to, maybe your friends are going to tell you, some comments are going to be like, oh, the influencer are going to say something to you, but it is going to be in your best interest because you are building your brand. You're building the digital footprint that you want to be living in this world. You're talking to future employers. You're talking to clients. You're talking to your industry fellows. You're making yourself a name, and that is priceless. Whatever project you take on in the world, to have an online presence that reflects the things that you want to reflect is going to be priceless in the future. And be consistent. You know, whatever you decide to do, whether you're going to post once a month, once a week, or whenever, be consistent about it. Do not forget about it. There's a lot of tools that you can schedule content, like Buddy. You can also DM me for those tools later if you want. You can schedule the content so that you do not let go of consistency. That is the most important thing in these platforms. Oops. And follow other people. That is very important. Follow other people, see what they're doing, copy, steal, you know, imitate, reformulate in your own way, but follow other people and see what they're doing. Here, I would like you to take a screenshot because these steps I have done, this is what I've done with every single person in my company. I sat with them, we sat with ChatGPT, which is the only useful AI today that I have been able to find. I don't know if you know of any others, then it would be great to know, but this is the only one that I have found that is amazing, that is ChatGPT. I even pay for the latest version, so I love it. And what I did is I copied and pasted posts for the last 2 years, maybe 8 or 9 pages, depends on how often you post or what you have written in the last 2 years, 8 or 9 pages in a Google Doc of your posts, things that you have 100% written. Do not take anything out. I give it to ChatGPT. You tell them, these have been my posts for the last 2 years or the last 4 months or whatever you want to do. If you were a professional scrolling down on LinkedIn, what would you think about this profile? ChatGPT is going to give you an answer. I think that this person is a head of marketing at a company and is going to be like a fortune teller. It's going to be able to tell you everything, even if you do not tell them what your role is, even if you do not tell them where you're based. If it does not, it means that you are not posting enough and people are not being able to know who you are as a professional on social media. Then you can ask them what are your content pillars, because you are not going to want to post about the same thing all the time. You're going to want to change it up. And you're going to share your goals with it. You're going to share your personality with the AI, and it's going to be able to give you like pointers. It's going to be able even to give you topics about your future posts. But these are the prompts that have worked really well for me. So you're more welcome to print screen these, or I will send them to you later. Or I will very likely post them one of these days on LinkedIn also. So once I've done all this, 6 months ago, we were here into 2015. Now we are here today, but we want to be in 2024. We want to be looking at our marketing strategy with eyes to the future. We do not want to be with eyes now. So where to now? Employer brand. It's very important. A company's reputation and perception as an employer. Why? Because not only it attracts and retains talent, but it impacts on the business performance. And here I want to do a disclaimer. Do not do employer branding and do not do like Pride Month or any action if it does not seem relevant to you or your team or your company. A lot of people really care about what their company thinks and they want to feel valued like that at work. And a lot of people would rather keep that separate. You have to learn what your team expects from you or what they expect from your company, but also have an eye on the market and on the industry. What are your competitors doing in order to be like current with the times and at the same time make your team feel comfortable, but it has to be something that it has to be aligned with you. The same as with your personal brand, you can extract or choose which things to share with your audience or not, depending on what your goals are, but you should never say something that goes against your values. If you see that your values go against what everyone is thinking, maybe the smartest way to do, and this is a personal recommendation, wouldn't be to post it or to talk about it, but just to ignore it and let the time pass. So what we have discovered so far with the brand is that it is a very competitive market, that market experts, this has been one of the biggest goals for our brand and the most important thing. That's why we have decided to go with a content strategy moving forward. And this is the first webinar towards content for our brand. And we have opportunities to explore outside our ideal customer profile. My ideal customer profile is who is my ideal client or the majority of my clients. And we want to do marketing for the future, not for the past. Having that in mind, what are we going to do for the future? We're going to readjust and address our candidates too. We were too focused on our clients for the last 6 months, and unfortunately we let go a little bit of our candidates. We have to go back to them and get that human element back in our brand. Get a performance agency, hi Franco, hi Orka, so that we can focus ourselves on content. So we have decided, you know what? We have a team, like the people in our company are very high profile people. They have 15, 20, 50,000 followers on LinkedIn, on Instagram. We have really a team of rock stars, of people who are very high profile in social media. So let's leverage that. We have really good people that are doing great content, that are putting out great content online. So let's do ourselves what we know how to do best. And let's use a company for the things that maybe we're not as good at. That is, in this case, performance. And to focus 100% of content, and in repurposing this content. It is not enough when you have a great idea to just do one post or to do one newsletter or to do one something. You have to repurpose that content in multiple platforms for it to be successful. And that is how we created our content mill. That it is what we're going to do moving forward. That is, we're going to do this webinar, we're going to record it. Then this long form video is going to go to YouTube. Then we're going to do reels and posts about it. And then all that content is going to go to our newsletter, or we're going to start a newsletter and we're going to do a webinar about it. And that is going to fuel our content mill, and that is going to be our strategy in-house moving forward in order to position our company as market experts. And the reason why I'm talking about our brand is because I have been approached so many times by companies that have faced these same mistakes, and I think that the easiest way to learn is from experience. So to listen and to know how other companies are doing it, so that you can see what you can take and what not from this. And this is my tiny cheat sheet of what you should focus on. This doesn't mean that maybe because of your industry, you should focus on something, but because of your target, you should focus on something else. Maybe your competitors are all doing something and you decide that that's not what you want to do. You want to do something else, and that's completely valid. But I did this cheat sheet thinking about a little bit of brands so that I can tell you what I think would be the smartest approach. So for example, if you're in a cool industry, a personal brand, for example, or the cool cars or the cool liquor companies, they all use personal branding. They all use people to market their products, because cool brands such as Nike, Adidas, Ferrari, I don't know, Scotch, they all use, if you realize, they are all using famous people because that is the way to differentiate and give status to their brand. If you're not in a cool industry, then you have to be all about brand. For example, Deal is a great example of this. Deal is a compliance and payroll company. It is the most boring topic ever, and they have done a fantastic job of creating a cool brand with a really nice brand identity, and that has been the core of our growth, of their growth. Also, WeWork, it is office spaces. If you think about the most boring industries had to leverage and create these fantastic brands to like compensate the fact that their topics are just simply or were deemed simply unsexy fintechs. They all have this cool branding because who cares about their credit card? They have to make it something fun. They have to make it something cool. They have to be something that you want to be associated with. And if it is a new industry, product marketing, Stripe has done a fantastic job with this. You have to educate your audience. You have to let them know what are the capabilities of their product. You have to teach them, you have to give them content, and they have to see you as the industry expert. If you want to, if you have a subscription revenue model, for example, Airbnb. Sorry. Oh, yeah, performance. Because once the person is already hooked, you can have the subscription going and you don't need as much brand if you have a subscription. But if you have a recurring model, for example, a ride sharing app or a like an Airbnb, it's so good is their brand that the verb is already embedded in my mind. It's like you don't, if you're going to catch a taxi or you're going to catch a Cabify, you still say I'm going to catch an Uber, because they had to really put a lot into the brand, because it is such a not only highly competitive market, but it is a recurring, it is not a subscription. It is something that I have to have top of mind to say, this is the brand that I'm going to use. This is the app that I'm going to open. How do you choose which ride sharing app you're going to open? Sometimes it's because one day you saw that this one was cheaper and that's what the one you're going with. But most of the times we just go with our gut and we're like, I like this one, and you go with that one. If it is highly competitive, then it is a highly competitive industry, then I also really suggest that you go with brand. If it is a low competitive industry, you should focus on content. This is not to say that you should not do all the rest of the channels or the strategies, but it is where you should put the most attention, or where you should start, like the thing that you cannot let go, and the thing that is going to, at the end of the day, when you nail this is going to be the differentiator between not growth and growth. And by target, if you're B2C, you can focus on performance, but this one is the one that is a little bit more shaky, because it also really depends on the industry, if it's a beverage, if it's an expensive product, if it is not. And like this, there's a lot of different things, but you should try to find like what are other, when you have your pain points, what are other companies that are experiencing that same pain, and how are they solving them? And find like things in common, even in industries that are not your own, because sometimes your industry might be a little bit new, but comparing to companies that have, or industries that have 50 or 60 years, but you can use them to have your strategy, to choose your strategy. So key takeaways: know your company, first of all, speak to your team, know your industry, be realistic and prioritize, assess your strengths and build a team, execute, but be patient, and whatever you decide, consistency. And a little note that I wanted to say, brand can sometimes make us feel like we're not as much as in control as with performance marketing, but it is really worth it to pursue, and it is going to really bring you results in the long term. So thank you for listening. I'm sorry I went a little bit over time, Franco, but off you go.
No worries. Thank you, Ines. So Ines just gave us a tour about the pillars of brand and how to build a good brand. And after you master this, after you go through the building of your brand or your personal brand, probability is that sooner or later you'll want or think about launching a paid marketing strategy to actually scale your brand and your results. So what we did is we built a simple as possible framework for that you guys can follow to actually launch a really simple but effective paid marketing campaign. Ines, if you can go to the next slide, please. So we built a framework going through 8 basic steps where we want to guide you guys into everything you need to consider for a really successful paid marketing campaign, especially when budget is limited and when we need to make the most out of a lower budget than we would like to. Step number 1, this is know your audience. So like Ines mentioned before, it's really important for you to know your value proposition. Ines, if you can go to the next one. It's really important for you to know your value proposition and know your audience. So it's important for you to know the age, gender, location of your own audience, where are they based, where do they work, what company type are they working in, what industry, what position they have, what their interests, their likes, their dislikes, what's their purchasing power, and even what device do they use? Do they use iPhone? Do they use Android? Do they use mobile or use web? This will help you narrow down which type of audience you are looking for, and will be really helpful further on when we start using platforms, marketing platforms, to actually reach our audience. If you are working on a pretty broad market like the US, Brazil, or pretty populated markets, then it's going to be super important for you to narrow down this audience, because actually marketing is getting expensive every day, more and more expensive, and the better you narrow down the audience, the easier it's going to be for you to save money and actually target only those people that are interested in your brand. When you have your audience defined, it's time for you to choose the platforms. There's a lot of options to choose. Here, of course, we got some of the most popular search and social engines. And it's actually going to depend. Is something better than the other? It depends. It depends on who your audience is and which platform matches your brand. If you're looking for a really young audience, probably TikTok and Twitch are going to be good options. If you are looking for C-level and professional decision makers, probably LinkedIn is going to be your go-to option. But you have to understand which audience is in each platform, also the format of each platforms. We, as a performance agency, we usually get a lot of clients saying they want to get on TikTok or get on YouTube. They want to launch new platforms, but then they're not willing to actually produce the content for this platform, which is actually really difficult, and it's a challenge on itself. So know your audience, know your content, and choose the platforms accordingly. It's very probably that you're going to start with Google or Meta. They are the platforms with the broadest reach. You will be able to reach the most amount of people with these two platforms. Especially Google search ads is like the basic option to get started. With search ads, you can have a lot of control on the keywords that users are searching for. So even if you're running, let's say, a B2B business with a really niche audience, you will be able to segment pretty well your audience in Google Ads. If you're working in a really competitive market where you are the smaller player and you are competing against bigger players, then you're probably going to opt for more creative formats, let's say an Instagram or a TikTok or a YouTube platforms, which allow you to use video or creatives to actually differentiate yourself from the competition and mark your benefits versus other platforms or other services. So once you get your audience defined, once you choose your platforms, it's important before getting started, before doing anything else, track everything. And I cannot highlight enough how important this is. It's 2023, and we as marketers, we need to focus on data and on giving algorithms all the data they need. When we work with Instagram, when we work with Google's, we need to understand we are working with algorithms, and we need to feed them data. That way, they're going to work much, much better than they would if they're just running and buying impressions everywhere. So step number 1 before turning on your campaigns is make sure to track your website, make sure to track everything. Install your Facebook pixel, install your Google tags, make sure to set up your Google Analytics account. Maybe you don't like Google Analytics, maybe it's another platform, that's okay. Choose whichever you like the most, but make sure you have data to make decisions, and make sure you give the platform's data to actually optimize and work properly. You will be surprised on how good algorithms work when you feed them the right data. So this is basic step number 1 before getting started. And one of the most common mistakes we found as a performance agency when starting working with clients is that they don't have tracking set up properly. Number 4, get creative. Once you've chosen your platforms, once you got tracking right, it's time to get creative. And this is one of the most difficult parts of a marketing campaign. So there's a lot of competition. Platforms are getting saturated with ads, and we're competing with every other company for the user's attention. It's the attention economy, like the gurus call it. We need to get the user attention. And if you create a bad creative or it's not appealing enough, then you're going to be losing the opportunity to actually communicate with the users. Make sure to put a lot of focus on your creativity. Right here, we have two examples on the right, which are kind of user-generated content, more amateur, in a way, not necessarily amateur, but a more selfie style, user-generated, where they focus on a person showing the product, showing the service, talking about the benefits. And this type of creativity, this type of ads are working extremely well. We're seeing double the results on this type of ads, the two on the right versus the one on the left, which is a static image, a static or branded image. So this is a good thing for smaller companies, because we don't need huge productions. We don't need to hire the best influencers for creativity. We can use in-house people. We can use even the founder talking about the benefits of the product. Just put yourself in front of the camera, produce a 10-second, 15-second video, and that's probably going to work much better than any other creativity, any static image. Of course, we need to think about the storytelling of a 10-second video. That's not easy, especially the first 3 seconds of a video are the most important in a video ad. So pay attention to the storytelling you try to transmit on an ad, and it's going to be right now. Meta and Google estimate that 60 to 70% of the impact of an ad is due to the creativity. So we need to pay a lot of attention to the ads we design and we produce. Once you get this out of the way, which is one of the most difficult parts, it's time to get technical. So it's time to start building up your campaign structure. You have your platform, you have your ads, and then it's going to be really tempting to use all tools available on Google Ads, all tools available in Meta, in Instagram, in LinkedIn. But my suggestion is don't overcomplicate your campaign structure, especially when you're just getting started. First of all, smaller campaign structures are much easier to control and oversee. It's really easy to burn your budget on the first weeks, on the first couple of months. So stay small, stay under control. You will need to analyze, to report your campaigns every day to check that everything's is doing all right. So keep it small, keep it under control. Also, what is really important, especially when just getting started, is how you work with your data and algorithms. Algorithms from Facebook and from Meta and from any other platform will work much better as much data as they get. They usually suggest to have at least 50 conversion events per campaign per week. This is a lot of data for businesses that are just getting started, that are having a couple of leads or a couple of purchases or a couple of events per month. It's really hard to feed Facebook and Google enough data for the algorithm to optimize. So if you create, let's say, 5 campaigns in Meta and 5 campaigns in Google, one for Canada, one for the US, one for young people, one for older people, then you will need 50 conversion events per week per audience. That's a lot of data. And that means that the algorithm won't be able to learn. What we suggest is start small, choose one particular audience, choose one particular region. Let's focus on the US, let's focus on California, let's focus on older people, let's focus on professionals. Choose an audience, choose a region, and focus on that. That's going to be easier for the algorithm to get enough data, and it's going to be much easier for you to control. When you start getting some results, then you can scale, then you can start launching new audiences, you can start launching new regions, but it is important for you to stay always in control of your campaigns and your investment. Don't diversify your budget too much. It's not necessary to turn on 5 platforms at the same time. Focus on one, focus on at least 2 platforms when you begin. When you master those, we can start diversifying a little bit more and turning on new campaigns and new platforms. And something really important, like I mentioned before, it's really easy to waste your budgets. It's really easy to burn your budget. And there's something we call silent budget killers. If you're running Google Ads campaigns, which is probably your go-to or the basic of any paid marketing strategy, it's not for all, but it's one of the basic in paid marketing, Google can be really tricky. For those who don't know, when we work with Google Ads, we choose keywords. Let's say in the case of Synapse, one of their keywords is a recruitment agency or staffing agency, companies that are looking for a recruitment agency or a staffing agency. But that's the keywords we as Orka set for Google. But then we have the search terms. Keyword is the goal, while search term is actually what the user search for. And we can see here, the image on the right, that we actually bought ads for people searching for the word job, people searching for the word freelance jobs. And this is really far away from our initial goal. We wanted B2B businesses. We wanted people, companies that were looking for a staffing agency, not people who are looking for a job. So it's really easy to waste your money on this kind of mistakes. You need to stay on top of your campaigns, look at the details to actually negativize these, exclude this type of search terms as soon as possible, and do all the optimizations needed. It looks complicated. It's not so complicated. There's not so many factors you need to be in control. That's why I suggest a smaller structures so you can be on top of all of them quickly. Analyze spend by country, analyze spend by region. When algorithms get enough data, then they will optimize very good towards the best performing region. This could be Canada, this could be US, this could be Mexico, California, Texas. But on the first couple of weeks, when the algorithms don't have enough data, it will have trouble optimizing to the best performing region. They don't have enough data yet. So what's more probably happen is that the algorithm will optimize towards the cheapest region. So let's say you run an ad in Argentina and in the US at the same time. Probably 99% of your investment is going to go to Argentina because it's cheaper. So watch out. Create graphs, analyze your spend by country, analyze your spend by audience, analyze your spend by ad, so you can stay on top of the silent budget killers, and you make sure your investment is distributed according to your business needs. Something really important is monitor your ad CTR, the click-through rate, how many clicks it gets, what's the probability of a person clicking on your ad. When you don't have enough data about conversions or about leads, we want to focus on clicks. It's everything we have on the first week, on the first couple of days when you start running a campaign. So CTR will give you a good index of how people are engaging with your ad. Let's say you had a really bad CTR below 1% or even below 0.5%. That means only 0.5% of people are clicking on your ad, and you're wasting an opportunity to actually get double, triple, or 4 times the results you are getting for the same money. So keep on top of your CTR. If you have really bad CTRs, it's time to stop those ads, build better ads, and launch them again. One of the worst silent killers out there is fraudulent traffic. There's a lot of junk traffic. There's a lot of bots on the digital marketing landscape. So it's important for you guys to always stay on top of your campaigns and the quality of the traffic we're generating. I usually suggest for all brands, when they're just getting started, to stay with trustworthy platforms. Google, Meta, LinkedIn, that's okay, but avoid using their partner networks, avoid using their audience networks, at least on the beginning, because these partner networks, these display networks are full of junk traffic, fraudulent traffic. Of course, as we start scaling, as we want to scale our results, we will depend on them, and we'll need to use display networks and audience networks, but it takes a lot more of work to actually clean this traffic and avoid fraudulent traffic. And this takes me to the next step, which is KPIs. How do I detect fraudulent traffic? By staying top of your KPIs. It's really important when you launch a paid marketing campaign to know at least your basic KPIs and to understand what is the goal you're expecting from your paid marketing campaign. When you're just getting started, like I mentioned, probably you're not going to get enough results conversion-wise. So I would suggest staying on top at least of your traffic. So are you generating enough clicks? Are you generating enough sessions on your website? That's a pretty interesting metric. So you could create 1,000 clicks, but maybe those clicks are not converting into real sessions on your website. So for this part, I always recommend Google Analytics. It's a really powerful tool, at least to measure your traffic and the quality of your traffic. So stay on top of your CTR, your cost per clicks on the platform. Also stay on top of your sessions and the cost per session from your website. And to detect especially bad quality, Ine, can you go? Yeah, thank you. To detect especially fraudulent traffic, I always recommend using engagement rate and average session time. These are metrics that will help you understand the quality of the traffic. So engagement rate measures the amount of sessions that were above 10 seconds. So let's say you find a source, let's say Google Ads is generating a lot of sessions under 10 seconds. That's a pretty bad indicator. That means that users are not staying not even 10 seconds on your website, and they're not having enough time to actually get to know your value proposition. So if you see really low engagement rates from Google Analytics, I would suggest making a double click there, trying to understand why the engagement rate is so low. It could be a problem of the website, it could be a problem of the value proposition, but also could be a problem of your campaigns not optimizing correctly and driving fraudulent traffic to your website. Also, average session time is pretty helpful to measure quality. Once you start getting some data, when you start getting your first results, we can move towards what we really want and our final goal, which is conversion objectives. So we want to get purchases, we want to get leads, we want to get results on our website. That's when we start using CPA or CPL KPIs. This is cost per action, cost per conversion, cost per lead. Of course, these are the ultimate KPIs we will be using. ROAS is also pretty helpful, especially when you have an e-commerce. You can measure the return on ad spend. So you can measure all the money generated by an ad and how much you actually spend on that ad. So these three metrics, CPI, CPL, and ROAS, are especially helpful. But the problem is they are reported by each platform. So Google reports their own ROAS, Meta will report their own CPA, LinkedIn will report their own CPA. And when you have different attribution models, you get into a really shady part of digital marketing, which is attribution. And we could talk for hours about attribution and not getting anywhere because it's a really hard topic and there's not one source of truth. So it is good to use metrics from each platform, but especially for a small business, what I ultimately suggest is to use a much more strategic KPI and actually easier KPI, which is MER, or marketing efficiency ratio. Marketing efficiency ratio is a KPI that actually measures your holistic marketing strategy, and it doesn't really matter where the conversion came from. It doesn't really matter where you put your money. What we only care about is how much money you spent, how many results you got. So marketing efficiency ratio is the total amount of money spent on a given month divided by the total amount of results you got on a given month. That will give you an idea of how profitable your marketing campaigns are. After you get this marketing efficiency ratio and you analyze if it's positive or not, good enough or not for you, then we can get into CPA of each platform, how each platform is contributing to the marketing strategy. But overall, it's really important to stay on top of your marketing efficiency ratio. That's going to give you a real idea of how your holistic marketing strategy is working. And finally, I know it's been a really quick framework for too many items, but once you decide on a platform, once you launch your first campaign, once you are tracking correctly, once you define your KPIs, got some decent creatives running, it's time to start testing and scaling. Testing, especially creative testing, is going to be essential on the first couple of months. Run A/B test, create a group A and group B with different creative variants. You could run images versus videos. You could run the same video with a different copy. You could run longer versus shorter videos, but it's really important to A/B test your creatives so you start getting an idea of what works best and what's not working so well. We always suggest to separate part of your budget, let's say 10% of your budget, assigning to A/B testing each month. But make sure that you are testing correctly so you can actually make conclusions from your test. It's really popular to make too many tests at the same time, not building them correctly, and then not taking statistically correct decisions. So what I just suggest is run one test at the same time, run it for 2 or 3 weeks, gather enough data. Hopefully you got enough conversion data, purchase data, leads data to make a decision. If you don't have enough, let's say you got 2 leads in 2 weeks, then it's not going to be enough to decide which creative is best. So in that case, let's use click data, which creative had a better CTR, which creative had a better percentage of clicks. So always make sure your tests have enough data to actually make a conclusion. And something also I see very often is we're so focused on daily results then we forget about the bigger picture. So we monitor investment every day, we monitor conversions every day, sessions every day, but we forget to analyze evolution week over week or even month over month. So always have your information available to look at the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months, and understand where we are versus last month, understand where we are versus 8 weeks ago. That's going to give you an idea of if your campaigns are improving or not. Once you are getting some pretty decent results, once you are happy with your results, it's time to scale. But it's really important to know that big changes on your campaign structure, big changes on Meta or Google or LinkedIn are going to impact the algorithm. So I would always suggest going with gradual changes. If you want to increase your budget, go with a 10 to 20% increase every week, every 4 days, that's okay. But make gradual changes because big changes will have a really big impact and probably have a negative results for a couple of days before stabilizing again. So I know it's a lot, I know it's difficult, but one of the key takeaways for me is that as marketers on 2023, we cannot avoid the fact that we're working with algorithms. Everything runs around the algorithm and how to make the most from different platforms algorithms. So it's important for you guys to get the sufficient knowledge to run your campaigns if you're going to do it internally. Otherwise, of course, there's always the option to hire a performance agency. But if you're going to do it yourself, watch some YouTube videos, read some information online. There's a lot of information. That's the good part. There's a lot of information online. It's not as hard as it looks, but get to know a little bit how the algorithm works because that's going to help you a lot to optimize your campaigns. I know it's a lot of information. It was pretty fast, but let me know, guys, if you have any questions, and we're here with Ines to answer them.
Okay, anyone, any questions? I know we're a little bit like on time. So a lot of people had been messaging me like they had to leave, but any questions? Well, Ad had asked me before, what do you mean with A/B testing?
Okay, A/B testing is really interesting. It's a pretty common methodology to actually perform a test. So what we want to do when we A/B test is we create 2 groups, Group A and Group B. So what we try to do, let's say Group A is a particular audience. We got women in their 30s from California, and we're showing them a particular video. A/B testing would be creating a similar group, women in their 30s in California, but we're going to show them a variation of this video. It's really important when you perform an A/B test that every variable is the same. So there's only one thing that changed, and if one group performs better than the other, we can attribute the performance, the improve or the decrease in performance to that particular change. So if we are running women in their 30s in California, it's women in their 30s in California with a slight variation on the video. If I would run on men, then I cannot attribute the difference in performance to the video or to the change on gender, let's say.
Another question I had here that we discussed yesterday is, what do you think about starting an SEO strategy today?
SEO is really interesting. Like the truth is, SEO is a strategy, is old as marketing itself, and actually it's like email marketing. It never dies. SEO, it's important to have in mind that it takes time. It's a strategy that probably won't deliver short-term results. SEO agencies and SEO experts need to work for a couple of months before being able to deliver results. So for you as a company, you need to be patient enough to build an SEO strategy. What's good about SEO is after you successfully build one, you're probably going to get a lot of organic traffic, a lot of sales with much less spend, which is good, but that takes time. The first couple of months, you're probably going to be investing a lot without results. So you need to be patient. Also, SEO is going through a lot of changes right now with all the changes with AI and search engines. So it's a pretty shaken time for SEO, but I think the SEO is going to adapt. It's going to be a powerful strategy in the future as well.
But you're more optimistic than me. I think that SEO is dying and the clicks on Google are every time less, but I might take your word for it and try it.
Everybody said the same about email, and it's still email is as strong as ever. I think the channels adapt, and we'll see. We'll see.
That's a good point also. Okay, thank you everyone. We'll make the recording available for the people who had to leave early and the people who got to join late. Again, I apologize for the mix-up with LinkedIn. It failed us today. LinkedIn Live is a very coveted feature, but apparently not a lot of people have it, and it requires like 3 different softwares in order to run it. I'm not entirely sure yet if it was my fault or the platform, but it wasn't really connecting. So I really appreciate you all moving to this Zoom. Thank you, Franco, very much for your time and for sharing all your expertise with us. And everyone, have a great week.
You too. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Amazing.